What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Let's talk about Thursday Night Football briefly, because there's not much to talk about, because the game was a blowout. Cleveland Browns beat the Jets 37-20. I saw it was coming from a mile away. I don't know how much, substance you had to be on to possibly pick the Jets last night. Joe Flacco absolutely just lit up the Jets. 19 of 29 for 309 yards, 3 touchdowns against just 1 interception. He was the first quarterback to throw for 300 yards against the Jets defense in the last 30 games. 134 yards for David Njoku. Only player who really showed up for the Jets was Breece Hall, who ran for 84 yards and had another 9 catches for another 42 yards and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson had 50 yards in the game. He's got back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, first Jets receiver to do that since Keyshawn Johnson, which at this point has got to be close to 20 years ago, at least 15. What do you want me to say? The Jets didn't look prepared. They look underprepared. They were once again undisciplined. They gave up 37. Offense, not good. Making silly mistakes. Rafford wasn't that bad. I mean, they had Jermaine Johnson had the pick 6. Outside of that, so the offense scored 13 points, which isn't good. The defense also gave up. Simi had a pick 6. Outside of that, the defense gave up 30 points to Joe Flacco. And they didn't have Amari Cooper. Elijah Moore got hurt in the game. And, you had Joe Flacco handing the ball off to Jerome Ford, who just torched them. And they were leaving David Njoku, who is a very good tight end, but leaving him wide open. He torched them all game, especially in that first quarter. Same stuff with this coaching staff. And to me, they suck. I know they're coming back. They want to give them a year of Rodgers, but I don't know how it won't be the same. This offensive line is pitifully bad. Their only true weapon they have is Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Conklin's a pretty good tight end, but I tell you, Alan Lazard hasn't had a good year. He didn't play last night. He was benched earlier in the year. He's ever given a pretty good return man, but he's not a very good receiver to me. He hasn't done a whole lot in the receiving game. And he's also lost a couple of fumbles on returns. So of course, he had that game-winning touchdown in the first game of the year in overtime against Buffalo. Jason Brownlee hasn't done anything. Both of them were undrafted for a reason. They have nothing on offense. Absolutely nothing. And their play caller, Hackett, absolutely sucks. All right, so nothing much to talk about besides that the Browns officially clinched the playoffs with their 11th win of the season. They're now 11-5. So if both more wins this week, they will clinch the 1 seed, and the Browns will be locked into a wild card. If the Ravens lose, you'll have a battle for the AFC North next week, and if the Browns win next week, so if the Ravens lose out and the Browns win out, and the Dolphins lose to Buffalo next week, Browns will get the number 1 seed. So Browns, their second playoff berth in the last 21 years. They made it in 2020, and then they missed the last 2 years. Now they're back this year. But before these 2 of the last 4 years, they went. I'm trying to do the math. Something like 16 years about a playoff berth or something. That's what the Jets are looking at, because this is now their 13th straight season missing the playoffs. It's the longest playoff draw of any current American sports team in the major 4 sports. Absolutely embarrassing. Talk some basketball scores. Celtics beat the Pistons 128-122 in overtime. The Pistons losing streak continues. 28 in a row, ties an all-time record. But I just want to clarify something. They're losing 27 straight games is the longest losing streak game in history in 1 season. The Philadelphia 76ers have the all-time record at 28 games. That doesn't make any sense. The Sixers, I think in 2016 or 15, lost their last 10 games of the season. Then the next season was year 2016 or 2017, lost their first 18 games. So in total, 28 straight games that they lost in a row. That's the all-time NBA record the Pistons just tied. But the Pistons lost 27 straight games in 1 season. That Pistons 28 straight losses in 1 season is an NBA record. It was 27. It was 20. Well, 26 was the record. They broke at 27. Of course, now it's at 28. The all-time record for for consecutive losses in NBA history, not just in one season across 2 seasons, just the overall all-time record is 28, which the Pistons tied. And I'm sure they will break their record because this team is showing no signs of hope. They were up by 21 at one point in the first half, and then they blew it. Look, the Celtics are the best team in the NBA, and the Pistons are the worst, so we all know the Celtics we're going to win. But this Pistons team, I don't understand. The Pistons have, I think, like 9 lottery picks on their team. They have like 4 or 5 top 5 picks. They have like 3 top 3 picks. They have like 7 or 8 at least top 10 picks. You have K was number 1 overall pick 2 years ago. Was having a phenomenal year. He had 31, 6, and 9 last night. You have Jaden Ivey, who was I think the 5th pick last year. You have Alstar Thompson, who was a 5th pick this year. You have Jalen Duren, who I think was the 10th pick last year. He's not good, but you have Killian Hayes, who was a top, I think, a 8th pick a couple of years ago. Then you have James Wiseman, who they didn't draft, but Golden State drafted the 2nd or 3rd pick a few years ago. You have Marvin Bagley, who's drafted by Sacramento, 2nd overall a few years back. You have a couple of decent veterans in Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks. And for some reason, this team is as bad as we've ever seen an NBA team. They shouldn't be this bad. Like, did I think they'd be good? No. I thought they'd be a little better than they were last year because you have your best player, Cade Cunningham. You didn't have. Okay, they won 17 games last year. Cade Cunningham is their best player. He was injured for most of last year, and now he's healthy. Jaden Ivey, has another year under his belt. Jalen Duren has another year under his belt. You have a full year of James Wiseman as part of the rotation, a guy who I still believe can do something in the NBA. He's a guy who was so raw coming out of college. He just needed to play, and he goes to Golden State. Of course, they're come off a weird year. We all thought they'd be really good, even though they lost Kevin Durant recently in free agency. But, Stephen Curry was injured most of the year, didn't have Klay Thompson the entire year. So, Draymond Green was hurt. So, you're relying on, Jordan Poole's a rookie and all these other bums. So that's why you end up with the league's worst record. Or at least one of the league's worst records. They might have been the worst team in the NBA that year. And end up with the 2nd or the 3rd pick. I think the 2nd pick, and they pick Wiseman. You had Steph healthy and Clay healthy. Also, you had Draymond Green. And all those other role players, Otto Porter and Gary Payton II. And all these other dudes. Wiseman didn't get a chance to play. He's come off the bench, playing 10, 15 minutes. Now he had injuries, so he's had a rough go, but even in Detroit, he's not playing a whole lot. He's come off the bench in Detroit. So he's had a rough go, but I still think he's got potential. But at the end of the day last year, they won 17 games. The best player, Cade Cunningham, was out for most of the last season. He's healthy. Jaden Ivey has another year under his belt. Jalen Duren has another year under his belt. You draft Alstar Thompson, who's a really good defender. Offensive game is still kind of a work in progress, but still can score a little bit, give you 10, 12 points a game. He's only going to get better. He's a really good defender already. A full year of James Wiseman. Marvin Bagley, who's a bust. He's Sacramento screwed up drafting him 2nd overall, but as backup centers, there's worse options out there. Bojan Bogdanovic is a pretty good player. He's a solid 3-and-D option. Alec Burks is a serviceable, 3-and-D guy on your bench. This team, should they be a playoff team? Absolutely not. Are they a play-in team? Also, probably not. Can they win 30 games and be somewhat competitive? Maybe get within 5, 8, 10 games of a play-in spot? I think they can. I think that's probably their ceiling. You think, all right, so they're, all right, so maybe they don't reach exactly their ceiling, but they can win 26, 28, maybe 30 games, which still is terrible. But they shouldn't be, how is this team worse than last year? And Monty Williams should be a better coach than Dwayne Casey. I'm not a huge Monty guy. I think he's overrated, and $70 million is egregious. I thought it was at the time. I think it is now. Certainly think it is now. I didn't even agree with him when they paid him that contract. But also, I didn't think Dwayne Casey's that great of a coach. everything is signaling that this team should be better. They couldn't get much worse. I mean, I didn't think they could at least. Clearly, it could have gotten worse because it is. I didn't think they can get much worse than 17 wins. 5 games clear of the worst record in the league. I thought, all right, they'll be a little better. You got a slightly better coach. Your best player will be, you have Cade healthy. You have a couple of these. You draft out Star Thompson, a couple of these young guys. None of your under his belt. A couple of these veterans that you brought, they have been there that long. Now, we'll have like James Wiseman. You have a first full year of him. The vets like Burks and Bogdanovich, are now used to the system. They can mentor the young guys. And for whatever reason, it's not happening. So you could say with Monty Williams, like, oh, it's his first year there. The team's really, really young. They're not very good. But, like, defensively, they just look pointless. Like, they just look asleep on defense. Look, getting up 120 to Boston is all right. Especially getting them into overtime. And they give up 20 in overtime. So in regulation, they gave up 108. To Boston actually isn't even that bad. But it's every night they give up 120, 130. Like, they gave up 120 plus to Brooklyn. And Brooklyn's not good offensively. Also, they're getting killed on the boards too. So it's not like it's one thing if like, oh, they don't shoot the ball well. All right, that can be fixed. That could just be the personnel. That can be fixed. That can be worked on. But it's not even that. I mean, they can score and shoot fine. It's just they're not. It's one thing if like, all right, you're showing a little bit again. That could be the personnel. Maybe you need to bring in a better assistant coach who's a little more defensive minded. Just every night they're just not even trying, and they're getting killed on the boards too. So they're not only not playing defense, they're not rebounding. That's effort. That's not, just, the skill of the players, or it's not inexperience, or just not good enough personnel on the floor. That's coaching. That's a lack of effort. Put it this way. These professional athletes have it all. Money, fame. If you're making millions and millions of millions of dollars and you can't even, and you look just sluggish out there, you can't even play, in the NBA, and you look like you're not even trying to play defense, not even trying to go for a rebound. So how many centers do they have? Jalen Duren, James White, Marvin Bagley. They have good sides. It's not like this is like a really tiny team. They're going like not like they play small ball like the Rockets did a few years back. They had like PJ Tucker at 6'6" at center. They have pretty good size. Like something's not right. Like this is coaching. And you can't fire the coach because you just paid him $78 million for 6 years. He's under contract through 2029. Like, so what can you possibly do? I mean, the GM Troy Weaver, I don't think he's that good either. All right, cool. You drafted a kid first overall. Cool. Ivy with the 5th pick last year looks like he's going to be a good player. Outside the 5th pick, he looks like he's going to be a good player, especially if he develops even anything of a 3-point shot. Jalen Duren with the 10th pick last year looks like he's going to be a very good player. I don't even hate them giving up 4 second-round picks for James Wiseman. I think he's got all the potential in the world. They give up a lot for Marvin Bagley. But Killian Hayes, he is freaking terrible. A 7th or 8th overall pick, Killian Hayes, with a top 10 pick? That's embarrassing. And year after his team is just awful. You gave $70 million to Monty freaking Williams. He couldn't get within a game of the conference finals with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. What makes you think he's going to win 15 games with freaking Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren? Like, come on. This crap is ridiculous. I guess some of these guys he's drafting you don't know about yet, but like this product is just disgusting. And I'm not even a Pistons fan. I don't care about them. But I just don't understand as a basketball fan, just is this, this just embarrassing and pathetic. Like, they're on pace to win 6 basketball games. They're on pace to be the worst team ever. Like, this crap is disgusting. They've done nothing since the World Championship in 2004 Pistons. That was 2004. I graduated college in May. I was 2 years old when it happened. I graduated college in May. It was less than they did anything. I don't know if they've won a playoff game since then. They've also 20 straight playoff games or something, or 18 or 22 or something crazy like that. Hasn't been in a few years. Just absolutely embarrassing. I mean, they lost by 6 to Boston. All right, kudos to them. Also, they had a 21-point lead. You can't blow a 21-point lead. Come on. Absolutely terrible. Pacers over the Bulls, 120-104. Tyrese Haliburton has an incredible performance. 21 points and 20 assists and 0 turnovers. Wow. 20 assists and 0 turnovers. That's hard to do. He is absolutely phenomenal. T-Wolves over the Mavericks, 118-110. Minnesota, they're rolling. Anthony Edwards had 44 points. What a great player he is. Pelicans over the Jazz, 112-105. Zion, 21-10-8. Nuggets over the Rockies, 142-105. Nikola Jokic had 26, 14, and 10 and did not miss a shot. He had 26 points. He was 100% from the field, 100% from beyond the three-point arc, and 100% from the free throw line. By the way, the Nuggets have played 33 games. He has 12 triple-doubles. He's not fair. That just isn't fair. 7 foot tall. I don't know how he gets it. Heat over the Warriors, 114-102. 26 from Tyler Hero in that game. Spurs pick up a rare win, though it was against the Portland Trailblazers. 118-105. Wembanyama had 30 points in the game. And the Lakers beat the Hornets 133-112. He had 28 and 4 blocks from Anthony Davis. All right, there isn't a ton else to talk about today, but I want to talk about Jari Alexander. So the Packers star corner Jari Alexander has been suspended by the Green Bay Packers for the Week 17 matchup against the Minnesota Vikings, which is a huge game. Both teams come in at 7-8. Either team wins, they stay in the playoff race. They'll be at worst a game out going to the last game of the year. So at worst, they'll need a win and some help to get into the playoffs in Week 18. But if either team loses, they are eliminated from playoff contention. And the Packers won't have Jari Alexander against the league best receiver, Justin Jefferson. So this is what happened. So the Packers beat the Carolina Panthers in overtime. 30-30. Why didn't they need overtime to beat the Carolina Panthers? I don't know. Part of it might be because Joe Barry is the defensive coordinator. I don't know how he has a job in the league, but that's not sort of for another day. So how it works when like the guys that go out for the coin toss, how it's decided, it's the team captains. Jari Alexander is not a team captain, so he does not usually go out for the coin toss, but he did anyway. The coaches didn't tell him he could do it. He does it on his own. So Packers win the coin toss, and he goes, "I want the defense out there." So the referees were confused because that's not what you're supposed to say. You either say, "We're going to receive, take the ball," which is normally what you would want, in overtime, because in overtime, if you give up a score, if you give up a field goal, you either need to get a field goal and then at that point, next score wins, or get a touchdown, then you win. Or if you give a touchdown, now you need to get a touchdown to stay in the game, and then after that, next score wins. So, unless it was like one of those games like the Jets-Patriots game last year where Zach Wilson had like 90 yards, and then he had the embarrassing press conference where it was like if the Jets didn't give up a return touchdown, it would have been 3-3. All right, maybe in that game you want your defense out there. Maybe they get a pick six or a fumble instead of an easy field goal. But like pretty much any other time, because a lot of times whoever scores first ends up winning. Also, you used to be you score a touchdown you win, and now it's a little bit different. Now each team, the rule they put in the year or two ago was each team gets a chance, and then if it's still tie after that, next score wins. You want your offense out there. It's pretty common sense. But I guess he wanted their defense out there. Even though one, they'd already given up 30 points, and two, their defense is freaking terrible. Again, Joe Barry is an awful coordinator. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know how he still has a job. But yeah, you have to say either receive or defer. Defer means you're gonna kick off, and your defense will be on the field first. But what he said, because he said the wrong thing, what that actually does is technically gives the Panthers, almost like gives the Panthers a chance. So, like, for example, if he had said that at the beginning of the game and before the game in the first quarter, technically Carolina would now get the ball to sort of both hands. That's actually what would happen. Because obviously overtime, you have 10 minutes overtime. If it's each team gets a possession. If it's still tied, the next score wins. You have 10 minutes. If it's still tied for 10 minutes, well, then it goes in the books as a tie. This isn't the playoffs. So he almost screwed it up. So then after the game, they asked him about it. He was like, "Oh well, coach didn't know. I'm from here. I guess he's from there, so he wants, oh, you know, be honorable and because he's from there, and get the coin toss, and then have the defense be out there first and make a play and deliver a win for his team to keep them in the playoff race in his hometown because the Carolina Panthers were home." He said like the players didn't say, apparently his teammates didn't care about it, but then Matt LaFleur came out and said, he was not happy. He said he made a mistake and they suspended him. So on one hand, what Jar Alexander did was kind of stupid. Okay, he's not a team captain. He does not go out there for the coin toss. Why do you think he should be a captain or not? He's not. He's not one of the captains. He was not named one of the captains for that game, at least. And he almost screwed it up, too. He almost gave Carolina the ball. Like, he's lucky this was an overtime and not the beginning of the game, because Carolina would have gotten the ball to start the first and the second half. That being said, yes, it's a stupid mistake. He should have asked the coach, "Hey, coach, I know I'm not a captain for this game, but would it be all right if I go out for the coin toss? I'm from here, and I think it would mean a lot to me that if I can go out there, and be the one who gives us, who makes the decision whether to give us the ball or put our defense out there and deliver us a win to keep us in the playoff race in front of my home crowd. Who knows? Maybe I don't know if his family was there or not." He should have went out to Matt LaFleur and to his head coach and said that. I know. All right, so he said I want the defense out there. First of all, your defense sucks. They gave up 30 points to this god awful Carolina offense. So I don't know why you'd want your defense out there first. And the Carolina defense actually is not all that great. Your offense will score 30 points themselves. I think you want your offense out there. It's like, well, you've played in the NFL for whatever it is, 4 or 5 years. You know how this works. You need to say either receive or defer. That being said, the Packers have a must-win game against the Minnesota Vikings. They're going up against Justin Jefferson, arguably the league's best receiver. Jaire Alexander is one of the only corners in the league that has even somewhat contained Justin Jefferson in his career. There's nobody on the Green Bay Packers outside of him, or even in the league, to be honest. Not only a few other guys in the league, definitely no one else in the Green Bay Packers, who could even somewhat contain Justin Jefferson. And you suspend him for this game. Packers are in a tough spot because the Vikings defense has been playing pretty well. So, they might match up against the Packers offense. And now your defense, which already was going to have, although they're starting Jaron Hall, making a second career start, a fourth from rookie at BYU. But at the end of the day, a defense that has been struggling for a while now, and they have no one to cover Justin Jefferson. If he's open the whole time, if Jaron Hall all has to do is just throw quick stuff to Justin Jefferson, who's going to get a first down every time, it's going to be hard to win this game now. In fact, I would just start Nick Mullins, who doesn't want to pick, but his whole thing is just chuck it up and hope. Oh, if just Jefferson's open, it was open every play. That strategy might actually work out. Pretty well. So, did they have to suspend him for this game? they could have maybe behind closed doors, talked to him, said, dude, you can't do that. Maybe fine him, maybe suspend him for a day at practice, but suspend him for a game. If this costs them the game, they're gonna look like idiots. It's just so stupid to suspend them for the game for that. It's one thing if it's week 5 and you're 2-2 and it's a meaningless game against the New Orleans Saints. I mean, every game in the NFL matters, but like hypothetically, if you lose that game, you're 2-3, all right? The season's obviously not over or anything. But the second to last game of the year that you have to win to stay in the playoff race against the division rival, who's very beatable. They're starting their third string quarterback. They don't have their top back. Well, is Ty Chandler at this point. They're like third string back going into the year. Basically, they're starting back. They don't have their star tight end, J.J. Hawkins, saying, Jordan Addison, their second best receiver, might not play in the game. This is a very winnable game for them, and regardless if it is or not, they have to win, or their chance of making the playoffs will be 0% because they'll get eliminated. So, I think Jari messed up. It was an idiotic move, but suspending him for the game, I think they could have handled it a little bit differently. All right, I'm going to talk about my NFL awards picks. We're down to the last 2 weeks of the regular season, and then I'm going to predict the head coaches that are going to get fired. So my pick for MVP is actually Christian McCaffrey. So I understand why Dick, he might go to a quarterback, and Lamar Jackson's been playing really well, but Lamar's thrown for a little over 3,300 yards, 19 touches against 7 interceptions. He's ran for there 750 with 7 touchdowns, so he's got just over 4,000 yards and 26 total touchdowns against 7 picks. He's had a really good year, but I'm not sure if he's had an MVP year. Christian McCaffrey has over 1,900 yards, or over 300 more yards than any other player. He's got 21 total touchdowns. So that's tied for the most in the league of Raheem Mostert. I think he leads all running backs in reception and receiving yards. He's been at he's been a top 5 player all season. While Lamar in the first half was kind of up and down, in the second half he's really been on his game. I think it should be Christian McCaffrey. Honorable mention to Tyreek Hill, who's making who probably doesn't come up a little short, but all year has been making around 2,000 receiving yards. But I think it's Christian McCaffrey. I do think Tyreek Hill should win Offensive Player of the Year. He's going to end up with probably over 110 catches. He's going to still have probably around 1,800 receiving yards, possibly 10 plus touchdowns. He's had an incredible year. He should win Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year, I think it's T.J. Watt. He leads the league of 17 sacks. He's got like 10 tackles for loss. He's also got, I think, 3 forced fumbles and 4 fumble recoveries. He's got a defensive touchdown. I think he should be Defensive Player of the Year. A couple of guys who were right there. Trey Hendrickson's got 16 sacks this year. Kyle Hamilton, you could argue, should be in that conversation. He's probably the league's best safety right now. Got like 100 tackles, like 15 tackles for a loss. He plays all over the field. Obviously, you saw him go off in that game against San Francisco. But I think the Defensive Player of the Year should be T.J. Watt. Comeback Player of the Year. There's a few candidates, but honestly, at this point, I think you should give it to Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was not in the league until week 12. They bring him off the street. They throw him into the game because their top 3 quarterbacks were all hurt. Sean Watson's obviously on season-ending IR. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is hurt. And P.J. Walker they had already cut because he was just so bad. And I think he was hurt at one point. And he's gone out there in 5 games. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns. The Browns have gone 4-1, and they've already clinched the playoff berth despite all these injuries that they've had this year. And you could argue they might be a sleeper to have a deep playoff run in this playoffs. Like, I'm sorry you can't give to DeMar Hamlin. He overcame after collapsing on the field last year is incredible, but he's only played like a couple of snaps this year. I'm sorry you can't give it to him. I understand maybe Baker Mayfield. He's a former number one overall pick who's bounced around, been labeled as a bust. He's gone out there and had a really good year, thrown for over 3,500 yards, 26 touchdowns against 8 picks. Maybe Matthew Stafford, who missed a lot of time last year with injuries, and now he's come back and had a pretty good year. The Rams might be making the playoffs, but with Joe Flacco, it's just incredible. I think you got to give it to him. For coach of the year, I think it's Kevin Stefanski. Before the Jet game, I thought you could make an argument for a couple of other guys. Maybe Dan Campbell in Detroit. The first division title in 30 years. They already have 11 wins. Maybe John Harbaugh. They've battled a lot of injuries, and they still are the best team in the league. If the Tigers make the playoffs, maybe D'Amico Ryans. The Colts game, maybe Shane Steichen, or rookie head coach, who's done a good job. But at this point, Kevin Stefanski, he's had 4 different quarterbacks. He lost the best running back in the league in Nick Chubb early on. He's lost 3 offensive linemen. He lost a couple of guys on defense, his kicker, and he still has 11 wins as in the playoffs. That's incredible. Definitely should be coach of the year. All right, to finish up, here are my predictions for the NFL head coaching carousel in the cycle. So, the Panthers, Raiders, and Chargers already fired their head coaches. Panthers fired Frank Reich. Raiders fired Jeff McDaniels. Chargers fired Brandon Staley. By the way, I think the Raiders interim coach Antonio Pierce should keep the job full time. I think Bill Belichick, it's time to let him go. I think there'll be more like a mutual parting of ways, but I don't think he should be in New England next year. He's had an incredible career, one of the greatest head coaches, if not the greatest head coach of all time. But it's just time. It's time to part ways. I think they'll part ways at the end of the year. I think Ron Rivera's getting fired. He's just a terrible head coach. I don't know what he's doing this year. He's gone. I think Arthur Smith is getting fired in Atlanta. I mean, that's what I think should happen. And then, although I wasn't sure if they were going to, but a couple of weeks ago, they asked Arthur Blank, their owner, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're going to let the last couple of weeks play out." That to me is a nice way of saying I don't give a damn what Tim Reinke does in the last 4 games of the year. Arthur Smith ain't coming back. I said it yes. I've said this off camera. Arthur Smith runs that offense similar to, I would compare it as if the Golden State Warriors in 2016 had Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant all in their prime on one team. You have the greatest shooter of all time, arguably a top 10 player in NBA history. Plays a top 2-3 shooter of all time. And Kevin Durant, one of maybe the greatest scorer in the history of the NBA, arguably a top 20 player in NBA history. And they ran their offense through like Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala. Like, why? 2 bench players. Like, that's how he runs his offense. I don't understand. You have Bijan Robinson, who's arguably a generational running back, a really talented receiver in Drake London, and a really talented tight end in Kyle Pitts, and you run your offense through freaking Tyler Algier. Like, I don't understand. He's gone. Dennis Allen with the Saints is also gone. He's terrible. How about they don't have this division not only not wrapped up by now, but they're about to lose to the Bucks and get eliminated from the playoffs is beyond me. He absolutely sucks. He's terrible. A couple other guys are going to get fired as well. The offensive coordinator, Pete Carmichael. I think the general manager, Mickey Loomis, is also going to get fired. He's not done a good job. But Dennis Allen, he's gone. So they'll make 7 openings. I have 2 wild cards here. If Dallas loses in the first round, they're most likely going to end up with the first wild card. If they lose to Detroit tomorrow, the Eagles will clinch the division. If not, they will still need to win. I think they're going to need to win, and the Eagles to lose out. And the Eagles have Arizona and the Giants. If the Eagles win this week, I believe they clinch the division. So Dallas is most likely going to be the first wild card in the NFC. They lose to Tampa and Baker Mayfield. I don't care how good of a year Baker Mayfield has had and how well they're playing. If they lose to Tampa, I think you should fire McCarthy. And then I know Dallas always seems to like try to run back, but at this point, I think Jerry Jones might be the point if they lose in the first round again. He's gonna look at how talented this team is. He's had to look at Mike McCarthy saying, "You've won one playoff game against an 8-win Tampa Bay Bucks team with a 45-year-old quarterback, as great as Tom Brady is. He was 45 and had nothing left in that season. That's your only playoff win in 4 years. That's absolutely ridiculous, dude. Get out." And I still think there's a chance Sean McDermott could get fired. Although I do think the Bills are going to win the division. I think they're going to beat the Patriots this week. And I think they'll beat Miami next week. So I think they're going to win the division. Because I don't think the Dolphins are going to beat the Rams this week. If so, they'll have 11 wins. That will put them as the 2 seed because the Chiefs could have at most 11 wins, and then they beat the Chiefs, and the winner of the South will have no more than 10. They lose to like the Colts or the Texans in the first round. That's honestly embarrassing. That should still get him fired. I still think he's overrated. And if he does survive, he'll be red hot going into next year. He's got to get to at least the AFC Championship next year. But if he loses to the first round at home to like the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, or something, lose to freaking Gardner Minshew, or he might end up playing like Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph or Jake Browning, the Bengals. He should get fired to me. 3 guys who at one point you thinking they might get fired who are safe. Robert Sala with the Jets has already been announced coming back. I disagree, but Willie Johnson makes closer shots over there. Matt Eagles with the Bears has probably saved his job. You know what looks like is going to happen? They're going to fire the offensive coordinator Lou Getsy, and then the Bears, the ownership will say, "Eberflus," and probably the GM Ryan Poles, get this together, do what you gotta do. Keep Fields, trade him, draft the quarterback. Don't do what you gotta do. Get this team in the playoffs next year, where they're both gone. Matt LaFleur, I think is going to come back. I think he's overrated for sure. He's done nothing about Aaron Rodgers. I think his play calling is not very good. But they're probably going to say, they're like, all right, season didn't go as planned. Well, they're probably not going to make the playoffs, but, we may have something in Jordan Love. He played a lot better down the stretch. We have some young pieces. Get yourself a real defensive coordinator. Get to the playoffs next year where you're fired. That's what my predictions are for that cycle. All right. That's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.